Hello everybody, my name's Mr. Revenger. I have recently released a clip with me playing my Divine Ire build in Tower. The clip will be linked in the video description. As many people that have seen the clip actually enjoyed it and were asking me about the build, so I've decided to make this build guide. First of all, I'd like to apologize for the format, as I don't usually make videos and I have no idea how to edit stuff, so it is what it is. So first of all, let's do a video showcase. I am currently not using a headhunter, so nobody can be complaining. This is just a underground sea, some beyond on it, whatever, the roles don't really matter. The only one I care about is avoiding elemental ailments. Activate all of my auras and let's have some fun. Well, this build basically takes advantage of conversions, physical as extra, combined with Ignite Proliferation, and then Herald of Ash to explode multiple screens. It is very fun. The more you juice your maps with this build, the more fun you're gonna get out of it. It is a little bit on the squishier side, but that we're gonna talk about it a bit later. There are a couple ways of fixing it, and I am currently still in process of upgrading and obtaining better gear, because my current gear is kind of a pega. All I'm doing is basically focusing on farming. I've been farming 60, 80, 20%, whatever delirium with Nemesis 3, Nemesis 4, Beyonds, and the build is really good for it because it clears the map real quick. We're gonna do a quick single target, so you can tell the Ignite just takes care of everything real quickly. You just do an Ignite and we can run around and boom, the boss is dead. So this is gonna do it for the build showcase. And let's talk a little bit about how this all works. So how this build started, back in Ultimatum League, I was bored, I had nothing to play, and I found this build. Back then it was a little bit different on YouTube. I can't remember the YouTuber's name, it was just some random map clear, and I really enjoyed it. So I played the build back in Ultimatum, and it was really fun. Back then I pretty much straight up copied it. Since then I've put it on a back burner. I was playing other stuff, but this league I had nothing to do again, so I decided to try and revive this build. And obviously I had to change up a lot of the tree, I had to change up some of the links because it's a different day, a different age. But currently we are sitting with this. First of all, let's talk about the passive tree. We are an elementalist, and we are taking advantage of the Shaper of Flames, which is a very, very strong node. It makes it so all of your hits can ignite, so you don't need any global ignite chance, nothing like that, which is really nice. And then it also makes your ignites do more damage if the highest damage type is fire. So that is also nice. Then we're gonna be taking Mastermind of Discord just to get the little bit bigger effect of an exposure. The mana regen is kind of irrelevant as we are currently using Eldritch Battery. We're gonna be taking Heart of Destruction, which just gives us a crap ton of area and a little bit of extra damage when we hit a unique enemy, so a bit of extra single target. The area is just absolutely amazing. And lastly, we're taking Bastion of Elements, which first of all, we don't take reflected elemental damage, which is really whatever, I don't really care about that. But the Primal Aegis helps actually quite a bit, as we don't have that many defensive layers, and this helps. As for the tree, we are taking 2 clusters currently. This build is not exactly meta, at least at this point, so the clusters are actually not very expensive. I believe I bought them for like 1x each. On this one I have Disorienting Display, which is actually really helpful because it blinds enemies around me when I'm using a skill. So that as long as you're channeling, you're gonna be blinding everything around you, which is nowadays not that great of a defensive layer, but it's better than nothing. And obviously Burning Bright, because this node is absolutely insane at least for this build, because it gives us area of effect, which affects our explosions, or heralds, everything, and it gives us a bit of burning damage. On our mediums, we're running Burning Bright, and on one of them we're gonna be running Fan the Flames. Now what Fan the Flame does is it makes or ignites Prolif. So you might be asking, why don't we just use a Ignite Prolif gem instead of this and have a DPS notable? The reason is Fan the Flames is actually a global proliferation. If we put the Ignite Proliferation just in our chest, just in our Divine Ire, in the links, then it will only support the Divine Ire. With this, the proliferation applies to everything. If we ignite something with our Wave of Conviction, it's gonna proliferate. If we ignite something with our Herald of Ash, it will proliferate. If we ignite something with our Exploded Chest, it will proliferate. And this is what enables the huge explosion chains. And then all the other ones, we are running Burning Bright, Cooked Alive. Burning Bright, Cooked Alive. Burning Bright, Cooked Alive. What Cooked Alive does, it just lowers the enemy resistance, which is pretty nice, because we, together with the exposure, plus flammability, plus this notable, we get their fire resistance very, very low, and it enables us to do a lot of damage. On the second large cluster, I have Burning Bright again. This note is kind of whatever. The leech doesn't really apply because we cannot leech from Ignite, so the leech only we get is from the Divine Ire itself, which is not that great because our hits aren't exactly big, but it's really whatever. You could just get second disorienting display, you could get widespread destruction. There's a lot of options, to each their own. And on our regular jewels, we are running a 3-stat with maximum life, fire damage over time multiplier, and then I have either fire damage, or here's fire damage again, or burning damage. These regular jewels cost me roughly, I've been sniping them for a couple days, and I paid 1x for each 3-stat jewel, which I think is a pretty sweet deal. For our unique jewels, currently we are running a anatomical knowledge, which basically gives us a little bit more life for the intelligence allocated in this tree. So it is not too bad. If you wanted, you could run another DPS jewel in here. And for our Legion jewel, we are currently running a Glorious Vanity with Torianis, which gives us Corrupted Soul, which increases our ES pool a little bit, which means we can use our Mind Over Matter a lot better. Okay, let's talk about the gear. So currently I am using a Scepter that has +1 to all spell, +1 lightning damage, lightning spell. This could also be +1 all, +1 fizz, it doesn't really matter. The third prefix, I'm currently trying to snipe something better. This only has tier 8 fire damage to spells. It could be a lot better, but I am kinda lazy to be recrafting it. The suffixes are whatever. The fire dot multi is nice, but I will eventually be getting rid of it because I want to get a actual unveiled trigger, not the crafted one, and I will be explaining why a little bit later when we get to the skill gems. The enchant for the elemental damage per quality is actually really nice too, so I highly recommend you getting that. For offhand, we're gonna be running the Immortal Will, at least for now. So what this does is, first of all, it gives us a crap ton of all res, which actually really helps, because that is the one thing we're a little bit struggling on. Secondly, it increases the damage our channeling skills deals, which also applies to the ignite that gets applied by our Divine Ire, at least POB says so. So it is a pretty decent DPS. You would probably get higher DPS from a rare crafted shield, but quite frankly, I just cannot be bothered, at least at this moment. And then it gives you the Greater Harbinger of Focus skill. Now what does that do? You can see we have a little Harbinger following us around. And what this Harbinger does is, occasionally when we start channeling, he will drop his buff on us that lasts for 4 seconds. And during this buff, we are immune to stuns, and we are immune to all elemental ailments. As you can see, cannot be stunned, which is a nice little quality of life, because you're not gonna get interrupted by stupid stuns. Okay, for our helmet, we are currently running the Devouring Diadem with a Hatred Mana Reservation Efficiency enchant. What this does is, first of all, it enables us to activate all of our auras, because it lowers the reservation, and that helps a lot. And secondly, it gives us Eldritch Battery, which makes our energy shield move over to our mana bar, which basically removes any need for mana cost, mana flask, whatever. And on top of that, it enables us to run Mind Over Matter, which is a nice little defensive layer. Okay, for our Amulet, we are running a Awakener Orb, +1 Fizz, +1 Int Gems, with a Hunter and Warlord base. Currently, I am still working on the suffixes. This is not the final version. Ideally, what I'm currently doing is reforging, keeping prefixes, or if I hit something that has an empty suffix, I put on prefixes cannot be changed, and I reforge fire. I want to hit fire damage over time multiplier. It is, I believe, on average 12 to 15 attempts, something like that. To hit T1, it's 1 in 24, I believe, so it is not exactly cheap to try and get the suffix, but it is something to work towards. The prefixes are super easy, you just roll them and awaken the orb together. For our rings, we're currently just running rings with crap ton of resists. So this one has T1 cold, T1 fire res, and some lightning and chaos, and the chaos res prefix. And then I just tried to get some life. That's literally all I did with my rings. If you have a spare suffix, you can craft on minimum endurance charges, which helps, but it is really whatever. All I cared about really is the resistances, because eventually I am gonna try to be getting damage on all the other pieces of my gear. My gloves currently is a horrible base, horrible piece of gear, but again, I can't really be bothered replacing it, at least for now. What this gives us is just a little bit of rest and a little bit of life. Eventually, what I want to do is get fire damage over time multiplier, or hopefully on apothecary gloves, which is more damage over time, and it will be very nice. For our boots, you really want to get a hunter boot with the ignite. Ignites you inflict deal damage faster. It's quite a big DPS increase, and then some movement speed and some life. Currently I have lightning rest on there, but it's whatever, it will get replaced. Eventually I want to go for elevated ignite and possibly cooldown recovery. For our belt, it is really whatever. Usually I just run around with a headhunter because headhunter is fun. The thing with this build is we are kinda starved with attributes, specifically with dexterity. We need 126 dexterity, and you need, I believe, 155 strength. So yes, unless you run with a headhunter, you're gonna need to get dexterity somewhere else. It is not a problem, you can just grab a node over here, or you can have sacrifice one roll on the gear, so it's not that big of a deal, but I just like to do it this way. Sue me. For our flasks, we're running a instant life flask with corrupting blood, even though we don't really need the corrupting blood because we have a corrupting blood jewel, but it still removes bleeding. It is really whatever. Atziri's Promise, this one is horribly rolled, but it's whatever. It gives us physical as extra chaos and elemental as extra chaos, so it basically double dips with our Divine Ire. Which makes the ignites very strong. Obviously we're going to be running a Quicksilver, we're going to run a Taste of Hate. It's a nice DPS and a little bit of survivability because physical damage is taken as cold, and it gives you Physis extra cold as well, which means again a bit more damage. This skill scales incredibly well with Physis extra. And then lastly a Cinder Swallow Urn. I believe this flask, even after the nerfs, is still amazing for ignite builds, because the recovery you get from it is absolutely insane. It literally carries your map clear. And the 10% increased damage, it's not bad. It's not bad. You get some damage out of it. So, what about the skill links? So first of all, we run a Divine Ire. Where is it? We run Divine Ire. Ideally, you want to get level 21, because it's a spell. If it's a spell, get high level, that is good. So, Divine Ire, and we currently are linking it with Awakened Burning Damage, Awakened Swift Affliction, Awakened Deadly Ailments, Infused Channeling, and Awakened Unbound Ailments. You might be scared because you're seeing a lot of Awakened gems, but all of these gems, I bought them at level 5 within 1 exile, all of them. So no, it is not very expensive because for some reason nobody wants to play Ignite. I wonder why. Then in our boots, we're running Flammability, Orb of Storms, and Awaken Hextouch. This could potentially be replaced for Stormbrand or whatever else you like. I like to run Orb of Storms. I just really enjoy pressing the button. You just put your Orb of Storms down and it is really fun. In our shield, we're running Flame Dash. I have the anomalous version because it increases the travel distance. You don't have to get it. And Steel Skin, which we just put on our left click so it gets activated everywhere we walk. For our reservation, we are currently running Herald of Ash, Herald of Purity, Hatred, and Malevolence. I have the Divergent Malevolence for a little bit more increased damage with elements, but again, it is a very, very small upgrade that you don't have to worry about. For our Scepter, we are running Wave of Conviction with Combustion and Void Sphere. And honestly, I was not too sure, but once I added this to the build, I actually fell in love with the skill on a trigger. What it does is it sucks in enemies and destroys their corpses on top of it. Destroying corpses is really whatever. We have exploded chest, and if they're not exploded, and if they're not destroyed, then at least we get a bit more pro living, right? So that part we don't really care about. But the fact that it sucks in enemies is actually really, really nice quality of life. So why do I want to get this? And this is an actual unveiled mod. Well, the reason is I just want to get more uptime on my Void Sphere. Currently, it has 10-second cooldown. The trigger is 8 seconds, so you might wonder why bother? Well, why bother is because I am planning to get I believe it's Phantasmal Void Sphere, which gets more cooldown recovery speed and brings the cooldown down to 6 seconds, I believe. And then I am eventually planning to go for a elevated cooldown recovery plus the elevated Ignite boots, which would be Hunter Shaper, which lowers the cooldown even more. And then I can get a Void Sphere out every 4 to 5 seconds, I believe, which is going to be really nice quality of life and defensive boost. The defensives of this build are not amazing. Your biggest form of defense is just making sure everything is dead. And then in our gloves, we are running Frost Shield, which is like, again, just a nice little defensive layer. You just put your bubble and you have a good time. And then we are running Flame Surge with increased duration and increased area of effect. I'm not exactly sure whether the support gems on it even matter. I might replace them, I might not. It's still something that I'm just grabbing a feel for. I don't even know whether the Flame Surge is worth. It says that it creates the burning ground on the floor, and the burning ground scale should scale of the ignite on the enemy, and the ignite from our Divine Ire should be rather large. So if I'm understanding this correctly, the burning ground that it's going to put down is going to be scaled off the Divine Ire, which means it doesn't need any support gems, any damage support gems, and should be pretty decent help for single target. I'm still not sure whether this is worth it. If you guys have more opinions or more ideas about this, please let me know in the comments. I'm running it with increased duration and increased area, just to have a bit more quality of life, so the burning ground lasts longer, and so it has a bit of larger area. I don't even know whether this works the way I think it does. It might not. It is what it is. I might replace it eventually in the future. So that's our skill links. For our Pantheons, I am currently running Soul of Brine King, so I cannot be frozen, and bit of stun recovery, whatever. And for my miner, I'm running Garukan, so to reduce the effect of shock. Shock is very, very big reason why many people die, because if you get shocked, you take increased damage. My eventual plan is getting this, which is 60% reduced effect of shock, and then I'm just working on my jewels with Harvest. I believe I had one already. Yeah, this one. You can get a enchant from Harvest, reduced effect of shock on you. If you get 3 of these, plus the Pantheon, you're gonna be immune to shocks. Then you're gonna be immune to freeze because of this change, because of this Pantheon. And then you can get the movement speed plus cannot be chilled, craft, or unveil on the boots, which basically makes you immune to all of the annoying ailments. The only other one are like the brittle and whatever. I don't really care, those very rarely happens. And then you have the ignite, which again is whatever, we don't really care about that. So unless I've forgotten something, I think that is about it. One thing I'm gonna show you guys is eventually I am planning to have a little respec and make this build a little bit more tanky. What I'm planning is probably try to fit in determination, changed my base types of all the armors to armor bases or something, get in determination and see how that works out, or maybe even spec into block. That all is still remaining. I am still not decided what to do. Currently, as I said, I'm farming 60 to 80% Delirious maps, and I'm never dying. I started farming them at level 93. Currently I'm level 97, so I'm actually leveling in that kind of content. So I don't think the survivability is a huge issue, but it could definitely be improved. So thanks everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, pop them in the comments and let me know. Peace.